The Alaska Highway is more than just a road. It's a vital artery that pulses with the lifeblood of Alaska and the Yukon, threading through some of the most remote and challenging terrain in North America. For thousands of residents and businesses, it's Alaska's lifeline to the rest of North America, providing a crucial link that keeps communities connected, supplied, and thriving even in the harshest conditions. Stretching nearly 1,400 miles from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, to Delta Junction, Alaska, the highway winds through forests, mountains, and tundra. It connects isolated communities, delivers time-sensitive goods, and supports vital industries like mining, tourism, and energy. Without it, many towns would be cut off for months at a time. While most cargo arrives by sea, the highway is the only overland route for much of the year, especially when ports freeze or storms disrupt shipping lanes. The highway is essential for delivering fresh produce to remote grocery stores, ensuring that even the smallest villages have access to healthy food. It also carries critical oil and gas supplies, powering homes, businesses, and emergency services across the north. And when urgent shipments like medical equipment or time-sensitive repairs are needed, the highway is the only way to get them there fast. Beyond its practical uses, the Alaska Highway is a magnet for adventure seekers and tourists from around the world, drawn by its wild beauty and legendary status. These travelers fuel local economies, filling up at gas stations, eating at diners, and staying in motels along the route. For many small towns, the seasonal flow of travelers is a matter of survival, bringing in much-needed revenue during the short summer months. When the highway is quiet, businesses struggle and entire communities can feel the pinch. The rhythm of life here is tied to the ebb and flow of traffic on this single road. The Alaska Highway also forges a unique bond between Canadians and Americans in the North, a partnership built on decades of cooperation, shared challenges, and mutual reliance. It's a quiet success story of cross-border collaboration where communities on both sides work together to keep the highway open and safe, no matter the weather or political climate. Any threat to this route isn't just a logistical headache. It can disrupt supply chains, delay emergency services, and isolate entire regions for weeks. For Alaska and the communities along the way, a closed highway means empty shelves, fuel shortages, and a sense of vulnerability that's hard to overstate. When political tensions threaten the highway, the stakes are high, not just for governments, but for every family and business that depends on this vital link. The impact is felt far beyond government offices. It hits homes, schools, and businesses across this vast northern expanse, reminding us just how crucial the Alaska Highway truly is. In early 2025, the fragile peace between the US and Canada shattered, sending ripples across the continent. For years, the two nations had enjoyed a relatively stable relationship, with trade and diplomacy smoothing over old tensions. But that stability was about to be tested in ways few could have predicted. President Trump, in a surprise White House announcement, declared a sweeping 25% tariff on all Canadian and Mexican goods entering the United States. The move, he claimed, was necessary to protect American industries and jobs, but it instantly revived fears of a new trade war, echoing the economic battles of his previous term. The announcement sent shockwaves through the North American economy. Stock markets tumbled as investors reacted to the uncertainty, and business leaders across the continent braced for a turbulent period. Companies with cross-border supply chains scrambled to assess the impact, while economists warned of rising prices and job losses. Trump's executive order included a one-month delay for the Canadian tariffs, a move that hinted at possible negotiations, but also kept the threat looming. The administration insisted this was a chance for Canada to come to the table, but the message was clear: the US was willing to play hardball. Prime Minister Trudeau responded swiftly and forcefully. At a packed press conference, he called the tariffs a very dumb thing to do, warning that they would hurt workers and consumers on both sides of the border. Trudeau's tone was resolute, signaling that Canada would not be intimidated or caught off guard. Within days, Canada's government unveiled its own list of retaliatory tariffs targeting key American exports. Officials met around the clock, determined to show that Canada would defend its interests and stand up to economic pressure, no matter the cost. As the rhetoric escalated, what might have been a tense negotiation quickly turned into a very public showdown. Politicians on both sides traded barbs, while protests erupted in major cities, and news outlets dissected every move in the unfolding trade conflict. The Alaska Highway, once a symbol of cross-border cooperation, soon emerged as a symbolic battleground in this escalating economic war, its quiet stretches now representing the uncertainty and tension gripping two nations on the brink of a major trade crisis. British Columbia's Premier, David Eby, responded with a bold threat: legislation to impose tolls on American commercial trucks heading to Alaska. Eby's message was clear: if the U.S. escalated tariffs, BC would hit back where it hurt most. The tolls would target only U.S. commercial vehicles transiting to Alaska, maximizing pressure on a state uniquely dependent on the highway. This move turned a symbol of cooperation into a potential choke point, creating a powerful lobby within the U.S. to push for de-escalation. Eby's gambit was precise, leveraging geography to force Washington's hand. The Alaska Highway, once a bridge, now risked becoming a bargaining chip in a high-stakes trade war. News of BC's toll threat sent shockwaves through Alaska, where the highway is a lifeline for urgent shipments. The Alaska Trucking Association warned that tolls would drive up costs, hitting consumers already facing high prices. Senator Robert Myers, a trucker himself, stressed that delays or added costs could disrupt food, medical supplies, and oil operations. Governor Mike Dunleavy called for calm and diplomacy, urging federal leaders to resolve the dispute before it hurt ordinary Alaskans. Alaska, caught in the crossfire, suddenly felt its geographic vulnerability. The prospect of a foreign-controlled toll road left Alaskans anxious and exposed. What was once a routine journey now carried the weight of international politics. BC's toll proposal was just the start. What began as a single province's bold move quickly set off a chain reaction across the country. The ripple effect was immediate and impossible to ignore. Canadian provinces quickly united in a wave of countermeasures, putting aside their usual rivalries to present a united front. For the first time in years, premiers from coast to coast were on the same page, determined to defend Canadian interests. BC moved to favor Canadian suppliers, prioritizing homegrown businesses and industries. This meant new contracts for local manufacturers and a renewed focus on keeping jobs and money within the province. The province also banned liquor from Republican-led states, including Alaska, sending a strong message that cross-border trade could no longer be taken for granted. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford responded with a dramatic move of his own, slapping a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. The measure was met with rare, cross-party unity, as politicians from all stripes recognized the stakes. In the Yukon, Premier Ranj Pillai announced sweeping boycotts of U.S. products, urging residents and businesses to look for Canadian alternatives wherever possible. The territory also restricted American access to government contracts. Public sentiment was fiery, with protests erupting in major cities and small towns alike. Some activists even suggested implementing their own tolls on American vehicles, arguing that Canada should match every U.S. move, step for step. Others called for a ban on high-profile Americans, like Donald Trump Jr., from hunting trips in Canada. A symbolic gesture that captured the public's mood. Provinces weren't waiting for Ottawa. They were using their own economic levers, acting swiftly and decisively to protect their economies and send a message to Washington. Their actions targeted politically sensitive U.S. regions, aiming to maximize pressure and ensure that American lawmakers felt the consequences of their decisions. The message was clear: Canada would not absorb the pain alone. The country was ready to stand up for itself, no matter the cost. The economic fallout would be felt on both sides of the border, as both nations braced for a new era of tension and uncertainty. Imposing tolls on the Alaska Highway is a potent threat, but fraught with legal and logistical challenges. Such a move could violate international trade agreements like the USMCA, inviting swift legal action from Washington. There are no toll booths on the remote highway. Building them would take time and money. Instead, BC could collect tolls at existing way stations, making the threat more immediate. For now, the legislation is a deterrent, not an instant reality, giving both sides time to negotiate. Interestingly, BC hasn't yet threatened Alaska-bound cruise ships, which rely on BC ports due to U.S. law. With nearly 2 million cruise passengers expected, blocking access could devastate Alaska's tourism sector. The province may still have its most powerful card left to play. Amid the political drama, tragedy struck the Alaska Highway. A fatal crash near Whitehorse claimed a truck driver's life. The accident, unrelated to the trade dispute, closed the highway for hours, disrupting traffic and daily life. It was a stark reminder of the highway's fragility and the real-world impact of any closure, whether by accident or politics. For several hours, the region's lifeline was severed, underscoring what's at stake in this dispute. The highway isn't just a pawn in a diplomatic game. It's where lives are lived, and sometimes lost. The tragedy offered a sobering pause in the escalating conflict. The Alaska highway dispute has brought the US and Canada to a crossroads, negotiation or escalation. The best hope is a swift return to talks, with both sides backing down and reaffirming their trading partnership. If diplomacy fails, tariffs and tolls could trigger chaos for Alaska's supply chain, spiking prices and souring relations for years. The cycle of retaliation could spread to tourism, energy, and beyond, causing lasting damage. This standoff is a lesson in the fragility of international ties and the high stakes of political brinkmanship. The Alaska Highway, once a symbol of partnership, now stands as a potential flashpoint. Only a negotiated solution can prevent both nations from losing far more than they gain.